Good evening. I'm going to call, are we on? I don't think we're live. Nope.
Oh, there we go.
There we go. Okay. Good evening. We're going to call to order the Regional Planning Commission meeting for Wednesday, August 9th, and we'll start with roll call.
Diane Vanderwell,
Here.
Peter Gower, absent. James Barnes,
Here.
Larry Chesney,
Here.
Sarah Chavilicek,
Here.
James Fewens,
Here.
Ed Hawkins,
Here.
Frank Peterson,
Present.
and Kevin Weisky.
Here.
Great. Next, we'll move to the salute of the flag, and if Commissioner Peterson can please lead us.
Certainly. You all please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next, we'll move for the approval of the agenda.
Commissioner Weisky, so moved.
Commissioner Chesney, second.
Okay, we have a first and a second. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Aye.
Thank you. Next, we'll move on to the approval of the minutes for July 26, 2017.
Commissioner Chesney, I move to approve the minutes.
Commissioner Weisky, second.
Okay, I have a first and a second. Are there any discussion or any corrections? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion
One
carries.
abstention.
Thank you. Okay, next we moved on to public comment, and this is anything that is not listed on the agenda. Do we have any requests to speak? Great. Okay, and then can you also note that Commissioner Gower is here? Thank you. Welcome. Next, we're going to move on to business of the day. We're going to start with RPC Resolution 17-04, Resolution of Appreciation for the Service of James Barnes as Chair of Regional Planning Commission. Please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Whereas James Barnes served as the chair of the Regional Planning Commission in 2016-17, and whereas throughout his tenure, James Barnes continually took an extreme interest in the numerous policy conversations he engaged in, and whereas during James Barnes' service as chair of the RPC, he led the commission in the discussion of a wide range of regional topics, including the regional plan update, housing, infrastructure and services, and as the future growth of the region. And whereas James Barnes ensured that the discussion and deliberation on items that were heard by the RPC during his tenure as chair received thoughtful, careful consideration, and he participated in these discussions in a cheerful, engaged manner. And whereas James Barnes supported the efforts of TMRPA to provide data-driven, thoughtful analysis for public and private decision makers, and was continually committed to supporting comprehensive and innovative approaches for planning in our region. And whereas James Barnes always treated staff with a great deal of respect and appreciation, and staff always enjoyed the pre-meets and snacks on the day before the commission meetings, now therefore be it resolved that James's colleagues on the Regional Planning Commission and TMRPA staff express their gratitude to Mr. Barnes for his conscientious public service as the chair of the Regional Planning Commission from July 2016 to July 2017.
Thank you. With that, I will take a motion.
Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we approve that for this, excuse me for a minute, let me find my place here. This resolution 17-04 for James Barnes.
Thank you, Commissioner Peterson. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Commissioner Chesney,
seconds.
thank you. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Aye.
thank you. Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, we'll move on to public hearing, Regional Plan Amendment, RPA 17-003. Mr. Tolley.
Good evening, Chair, Commissioners. Chris Tolley, Regional Planner. This first case before you is proposed regional plan amendment to maps 9 through 11, the 2012 Truckee Meadows Regional Plan to add a new utility site and a new regional utility corridor in the East Truckee Canyon at 21505 Interstate 80. How did you get that to go? You click the mouse, see if
Uh-oh.
it goes? Oh, the right screen. There we go. All right, to start with, we'll go over an RPA and this particular request. So regional plan amendment is required by policy 3.8.1 to establish or remove existing utility corridors and sites. And then the proposal obviously includes a new regional utility site and regional utility corridor that will serve the Apple data center. This is the site map showing the proposed regional utility site in orange, and then the proposed corridor in blue. And then to step forward to the aerial. So this is from 2013, showing the construction at that point, and then the green, fluorescent green, I suppose, dot in the center is the Claremont substation. I believe that was the name that was established. So this is the second for Apple of this particular substation, I believe, being the project alone. And then to provide a little bit more detail to show where the corridor and then the site are in relation to the Claremont substation transmission. As you can see, if you can see the notation towards the top right of this slide, that shows the connection into the existing transmission lines in the corridor. And then to go over the review criteria for an RPA, policy 4.3.6 identifies that the RPC and RPGB shall consider 6 criteria at minimum for a regional plan amendment, which is presented, this is presented in the staff report, covering the regional form and pattern, housing, jobs, housing balance, availability, timing, and phasing of infrastructure, public service levels, and fiscal impacts, and natural resource constraints. And staff found that there were no negative impacts considering the 6 criteria. I don't know if there was. And regional planning staff recommends that the Regional Planning Commission adopt resolution 17-05, recommending adoption of the amendment to the Regional Planning Governing Board. This does conclude staff's presentation. The motion can be found on page 9 of the packet or overhead, and that concludes again.
Thank you. This is a public hearing, so I'm going to open the public hearing if anybody wishes to speak on this agenda item. Do we have anybody? Okay, thank you. I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the board for discussion or possible motion.
Madam Chair?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Commissioner,
I have a question.
Yes.
I don't know, Commissioner Chesney, you were first.
No, go ahead.
Okay. Chris, just one quick question. Is there any concern that we should be looking at or that's not noted in your staff report regarding master plan of any housing units on the perimeter of this area, of this utility corridor?
I don't believe, give me just 1 second to try to, no, I guess it's not going to work. Can you click on the screen again? I'm trying to bring up the aerial. There we go.
I mean, it doesn't show it on your diagram, and so I just want to clarify it, please.
Madam Chair, if I may.
sure.
So this particular area is actually in the rural development area out in the East Truckee Canyon. There's not a lot of housing out there, and certainly not around this particular area.
Okay, so there's none, I mean, it won't affect future planning.
That has not been a conversation at this time.
Thank you, Kim.
You bet.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have no further questions.
Okay. Anyone else have any questions? Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
Madam Chair?
Yes,
Commissioner
Commissioner Chesney.
Chesney. I move to approve RPC Resolution 17-05, recommending to the Regional Planning Governing Board adoption of the Regional Plan Amendment to Maps 9-11 of 2012 Truckee Meadows Regional Plan as detailed in this staff report.
Commissioner Weisky, I'll second that motion.
Okay, I have a first and a second. Is there any discussion?
Madam Chair, if I may?
Yes.
Really quickly, I just want to confirm the resolution number on this particular item. I heard Commissioner Chesney say 1705. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. With that, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Motion carries. Next, we'll move along to public hearing item, Regional Plan Conformance Review, Project of Regional Significance, Projects Alone, CR 17-007.
Good evening, Chair, Commissioners. Again, Chris Hawley for the record, Regional Planner. This case before you falls from the previous item, the RPA. This is the conformance review portion for the project O-Loan, Project of Regional Significance. And then to go over the PRS and request. So Project of Regional Significance is required by Policy 4.1.4, which is defined in subsections of 5 and 6 of state law, as well as further defined by the guidelines adopted by the Regional Planning Commission in Resolution 13-6. The proposal does include an electric substation and transmission lines carrying 60 kV or more, both of which are defined as PRS. The PRS proposals must be found in conformance with the regional plan before final approval. So this is kind of an overview of the beginning part of the process for us. Then once again, the site map showing the proposed utility site in orange and the transmission corridor in blue. And then the aerial showing from 2013 showing the development on the site again. Same slide as before. And then to go over the PRS review criteria, Policy 4.1.5 identifies that the RPC shall consider the 6 items listed in 4.1.3, another policy, to determine if the project promotes the regional plan. And this covers items including regional form and pattern, infill housing and jobs housing balance, public services and infrastructure, development constraints, military installations, and cumulative and indirect effects. Staff did find, I'll take a step back actually. So this, the RPA is obviously reliant on the RPGB as well adopting the amendment. And then this item, the PRS, follows from and is reliant on the previous item, just as kind of another perspective piece for the commission. As noted in the previous item, staff found no significant conformance issues as well with the proposed project of regional significance and considering the review criteria, and staff recommends approval based on the findings listed in the staff report. Now, this does conclude staff's presentation. Proposed motion is found on page 18 of the staff report or overhead.
Thank you. This is a public hearing item, so I'll open the public hearing. If anybody would like to speak, do we have anybody that wants to speak on this agenda item? Okay, I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the board. Any questions?
Madam Chair, I have a question.
Sure.
Chris, you mentioned in your staff report under Public Services and Infrastructure, under your analysis, that any new lines outside of this area, so there could be new lines within the existing corridors, right? This PRS is just to establish the site and the corridors, those 4 segments. So the actual other portions of the line are going to be within the existing corridors, correct?
That is correct, yes.
Okay. Just wanted to clarify that.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, with that, I'll take a motion.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Commissioner Weisky?
Thank you. In the case of CR 17-007, I move to find the project a lone project of regional significance in conformance with the 2012 Truckee Meadows Regional Plan based on the findings listed in the staff report.
Commissioner Gower, I'll second.
Okay, I have a first and a second. Any discussion? Okay, with that, I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, motion carries. I have a question I was held before I open this. I was handed a speech card. I think it's Marilee Becken. You put down that you wanted to speak on agenda item 6B. You wanted D? Okay, thank you. Okay, with that, we're going to move on to discussion and possible action to sponsor a proposed amendment to the 2012 Truckee Meadows Regional Plan to amend the Truckee Meadows Service Area, TMSA, from the City of Reno TMSA to Washoe County TMSA on a site generally located east of South Virginia Street, south of Town Drive, and north of Rhodes Road. And with that, Ms. Knox.
Madam Chair, if I may request a 3-minute recess before hearing this item, so I can consult with the applicant and legal counsel on an issue that was brought to my attention, if
You sure
possible.
can. Thank you. So we will break for 3 minutes.
For the record, Lauren Knox, Regional Planning. This agenda item discusses the potential sponsorship of the Steamboat Meadows TMSA amendment, which is a private property owner request to amend the regional plan by changing the boundaries of the Truckee Meadows service area. So in regards to the sponsorship of a regional plan amendment, the bodies on the slide listed overhead indicate who can propose an amendment to the regional plan. So that includes the RPC, the Regional Planning Governing Board, and the local governing bodies of the City of Sparks, the City of Reno, and Washoe County. The public may also petition these bodies, which is what's being brought forward today. And for an amendment in the Truckee Meadows service area, the RPGB Regulations on Procedure specifies that a private property owner may request to amend the regional plan by changing the boundaries of the TMSA. On June 22nd, TMRPA received a private property owner application to amend the TMSA. So just to kind of give you a regional reference on where the property is located, it's in the southern portion of the TMSA. You can kind of see at the bottom there, Mount Rose Highway, so it's south of that. And this is on page 33 of your packet as well. And then to get a little closer, you can see South Virginia Street, or Old 395 here. Also for reference, this is on page 31 of your packet. So as it exists, the hatch area indicates the proposed amendment site, which is about 80 acres. The applicant would actually like to expand their request to include the parcel to the east, which is APN 017-30130, and I wish I had a way to show you which one that is, but it is the easterly portion between the yellow and the hatched. So the applicant is requesting to be removed from the City of Reno sphere of influence, which is synonymous with Reno's portion of the TMSA, and be placed within Washoe County's portion of the TMSA. As you can see, directly to the east of the site is Washoe County's jurisdiction, and directly west is the City of Reno. Also, just to provide some background, the project site is currently not annexed into the City of Reno. The application states the applicant initially intended to be annexed into the City of Reno. However, after discussions with community residents and council members, the applicant chose to withdraw their annexation request and seek county jurisdiction instead. So the RPGB Regulations on Procedure defines the course for processing a private property owner application. Once an application is made, staff checks for completeness of that application. Once deemed complete, staff is to bring the application forward to the RPC for potential sponsorship, which is the item that we're discussing tonight. If the item is sponsored by the RPC, then staff will transmit the application to the affected local governments, which in this case would be Washoe County and the City of Reno. And as part of this step, the local governments have 90 days to provide comments and an advisory recommendation. Staff will also evaluate the request against the criteria indicated in the Regulations on Procedures and the comments and recommendations from the local governments, and this will be brought forward to the RPC for a public hearing. And then the RPC will make a recommendation to the Regional Planning Governing Board, where they will make a final decision on the proposed amendment. So I also want to note that sponsorship really begins the process of analysis. And if the RPC does choose to sponsor this item tonight, it does not predispose a future decision of the RPC. So staff is recommending that the Regional Planning Commission sponsor the amendment, and a suggested motion can be found overhead and on page 30 of your packet. I'm available for questions. I also have the applicant's representative here, as well as the property owner to the east that would like to be added.
Okay. I have a really quick question. Can you go back to the map? Can you specify which parcel it is to the east?
Yeah, I think with the mouse, so let me try over there.
Okay, thank you. It's the bottom. Okay, thank you. Would the applicant like to speak?
Good evening. For the record, Mike Raley with Rubicon Design Group here on behalf of Teton Development Corporation. I think Lauren did a great job. I'd just like to give you a little history of why we're here tonight. Originally, we pursued a annexation and a master plan amendment and a zone change for this property through the city of Reno. There was significant concern from the neighbors to the south and to the east about this project being in the city and having city densities, that sort of thing. We agreed to postpone our master plan amendment and zone change, but the fact that we were in the city of Reno sphere of influence, we had no other choice but to pursue development of anything, whether it be 1 home or 10 homes or 20 homes through the city of Reno. After meeting with several neighbors and having neighborhood meetings, there was actually an online petition that was circulated that this belonged in the county, not in the city, that this was encroachment of the city. We heard that repeatedly from the neighbors, from a representative of the neighbors that was hired to be kind of their spokesperson, that this belonged in the county. When meeting with the Reno City Council members, they had concerns about extending city services to the site. So we agreed to withdraw the annexation and remove the property from the sphere. So it's really a direct result of what we heard during that city process that we're here tonight. The property that's being added, Henry and Steve Stremmel own that property. That's the existing trailer park that's out there. As you see, it kind of creates an island. And so I think this makes it a much cleaner application to have all that put back into the county, and that way there's no islands created, which I know are discouraged. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions. I would like to reserve a little time if there's comments to address anything that comes up, and I appreciate it.
Okay, any of the commissioners have any questions? The applicant? No? Okay, would the owner like to speak? Okay. Oh. Yes.
Good evening, I'm Steve Stremmel, and on behalf of my lovely bride who owns the mobile home park, we would like to be included in the application, if that's possible.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Right. With that, this is a public hearing, and so I'm going to open the public hearing. Do you want to start with?
Marilyn Becken.
How many requests to speak do we have? Okay, thank you. If you can please state your name.
I'm Marika Becken. I live on Andrew Lane, just south of this proposed parcel. I just recently received notice on this, so I've done a lot of research on the proposal. As mentioned by the applicant, though, they originally had suggested annexation. They got a lot of community feedback because of the potential density associated with annexation. The indication I'm getting and what I see from what happens if you remove the sphere and put it in the county is it allows some combination of the various zoned areas that might even indicate a higher density even than it would face under the City of Reno zoning rules. And that's of concern to us. And in addition, the same problem with being able to provide city resources to the number of homes that the developer had last proposed, the county resources aren't any more robust in that area than the city resources are. So I just wanted to bring those things to your attention. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other requests to speak? Okay. You can come up and then you can fill it out after. Thank you.
Madam Chair, ladies and gentlemen of the commission, my name is Russ James. I reside at 300 Rhodes Road, directly across the street from the property. The applicant states that the property is located within the sphere of influence and is included in the city's 7-year annexation program. That is exactly why the city should retain control over this property. The applicant says, based on meetings with the City of Reno staff and city council members, it was determined that it would be most appropriate for the site to be removed from the city sphere. Are there any records of these meetings? I've been in touch with multiple city council members and don't believe they've mentioned anything about these meetings. Concerning infrastructure and services, the applicant claims willingness of Steamboat Water Company to service the development. This is a dangerous issue for everyone involved. If the existing commercial well draws 10 times more water from the aquifer, how quickly will this deplete the aquifer? What about the existing wells in our neighborhood across the street? Is the applicant willing to take responsibility to re-drill all of our wells when the time comes? What about when the commercial well fails? Will they then pay to hook up all the residents to a new city water line? Their intent to use Steamboat Water Company, an independent water company, cannot possibly be considered a logical extension of services. For these reasons, we are asking you not to sponsor the amendment for this property to be removed from the sphere. Thank you.
Thank you. And if you'll fill out a card. So, are there any other requests to speak? Okay. With that, I'll close the public hearing and I will bring it back to the commission. And I have a disclosure. I met with Mr. James this afternoon and I toured the property and he explained to me the concerns of the neighborhood.
Madam Chair, I have a question
Yes.
before we go to motion, please.
Sure, Commissioner Weiss.
Yes, for staff, please. Would you, just for public record, and clarify again what the motion is before us and what the intentions are of this Regional Planning Commission by suggesting a motion tonight? Thank you, Lauren.
Absolutely. So the motion before you today is to sponsor the amendment, and what a sponsorship allows staff to do is begin the evaluation process. Part of that process is to also transmit it to the City of Reno and to Washoe County to get their record for it and also their recommendations on the property. And then we also do an evaluation where we do look at services and facilities and kind of what this could amount to. So the
Okay.
sponsorship will allow us to look at that.
So with sponsorship, then meetings that take place with council members, commissioners, planning commissioners, private individuals, whomever, whatever, this motion will put all of those comments then on record so that it can be decided what is in the best interest of the property, correct?
Yes, this will allow us to get an official record from the City of Reno and from Washoe County about what they would like to do with this.
Thank you very much.
Any other commissioners have any questions? Okay, with that, I'll entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Weisky. In the case of Truckee Meadows Regional Plan Amendment to amend Truckee Meadows service area from City of Reno TMSA to Washoe County TMSA on a site generally located east of South Virginia, south of Town Drive, and north of Rhodes Road. I move to sponsor the amendment to the 2012 regional plan as described in the staff report and direct staff to bring forward the amendment for RPC consideration of the amendment at a public hearing following transmittal to the affected local governments and analysis from staff.
Commissioner Hawkins, second.
Okay, is there any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Aye. Okay, thank you, motion carries. Next, we're moving on to discussion and possible action regarding the 2017 Truckee Meadows Regional Plan update, including the approval of 2 requests for qualifications RFQ related to the update.
Thank you again, Madam Chair and Commissioners. For the record, Lauren Knox, Regional Planning. This agenda item is in regards to the 2017 Regional Plan update and also specifically discusses the 2 requests for qualifications that staff has drafted. So before we get into the RFQs, I just want to note that we will be hosting a joint Regional Planning Commission, Regional Planning Governing Board meeting on August 24th from 5:30 to 6:30 here in the Washoe County Commission chambers. And we envision that this will be the first of a series of joint meetings regarding the Regional Plan update. You most likely received the meeting request already, so we just wanted to bring it back to your attention. So now to the RFQs. At the June 8th Regional Planning Governing Board meeting, the board directed staff to prepare an RFQ for the regional plan update and bring the RFQ back to the board for final review before posting the request. Staff has drafted an RFQ, which can be found starting on page 65 of your packet. Also, we've been involved with the Land Use and Transportation Resiliency Committee, which is a subcommittee of the Sustainability Partners in Northern Nevada. On behalf of this committee, we are also asking to issue an RFQ for a regional sustainability baseline study, which will help to inform potential policies for the update. A key thing to note with this study is that TMRPA has committed to fund $10,000 as part of the update, and we are working to have the remaining $15,000 for the study to come from our regional partners. Staff plans to bring these items to the RPGB tomorrow for final approval, but we wanted to bring them before you first to gather any feedback or comments that you have. And our hope is that these RFQs will be approved by the board tomorrow, and then we can post them on Friday. So with that, please discuss this item and let us know if there's any feedback you would like us to transmit to the Regional Planning Governing Board. And I'm also available for any questions you have.
Okay, any, Commissioner Goward?
Madam Chair, I just have a quick disclosure to disclose that I participate as a member of the Land Use and Transportation and Resiliency Subcommittee that Lauren mentioned, and I was involved in putting together some of the pieces of the RFQ for the sustainability study.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other commissioners have any questions? Okay, do I need a motion? Would you like to see a motion?
There's a motion on page 63.
Okay.
I think 63.
Would anybody like to motion for us?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Weisky,
Okay.
I move to accept this report and provide the following feedback to be transmitted to the RPGB.
Commissioner Chesney, I second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Okay, with that, I'll call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Aye. Thank you. Motion carries. Okay, with that, we'll move on to director's reports.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Really briefly, I'd like to discuss the next couple of meetings. One is the joint meeting that I know you've received notification about maybe a few times on August 24th, 2017. It will be in this room from 5:30 to 6:30. That will be a joint meeting with the Regional Planning Governing Board. And as Lauren mentioned, we will be premiering our community participation plan at that particular meeting and our first Metro Quest survey, so we're very excited about that. Our next meeting after that will be September 13th, and I wanted to identify that's our regularly scheduled meeting. And the final piece tonight is we've had a request to move the October date. I'd like to just flag that for you now. We'll go ahead and do a poll offline with you around two potential dates in October that we could potentially move it to, and we will go ahead and confirm that at your next meeting if that works for you. And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Legal counsel report?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Jessica Prunty for the record. Nothing to report.
Great, thank you. Next, we'll move on to requests for future agenda items. Okay, not seeing any. Public comment? Well, if we've got anybody to speak, do we? Okay, thank you. I'll close that. Any written correspondence?
Madam Chair, there is none.
Okay, thank you. With that, I will take a motion to adjourn.
Commissioner Weisky, so moved.
Second.
Perfect.
Fourth, fifth.
We're adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
Thanks for
Sarah.
joining us.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Stay out the slot machines.